Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we sow some alyssum seeds. So let's go. Before I start this video, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching my videos. It really means a lot to me. I enjoy making them, and hopefully you're enjoying and learning a lot from my videos. Your comments have been wonderful. Keep them going. And when you hit the like or the thumbs up button, that tells me that you're enjoying this type of content, which is very good feedback from me. And if you've subscribed to my channel, don't forget to hit the notification bell, just so it tells you every time I put out a video. I know some of these seed starting videos might be redundant, but I'm trying to make it so that they're easily searchable, so in the future when you want to look up a certain video, you can easily find it. One of my goals for this year has been to bring you along with my journey when it comes to seed starting. I don't want to just plant the seed and then show you suddenly, here's a nice big plant and let's go ahead and harden it off and get it outside. I want to show you the full process from seed to bloom, just in case you're following along with me and you want to know what's next. I live in New Hampshire. I garden in USDA Zone 5B. My average last frost date based on my zip code is around May 15th. Today is March 8th and I'm about 9.5 weeks away from my last frost date. When it comes to starting your alyssum seeds, some sites or seed packets will tell you 4 to 6 weeks. Others will tell you 6 to 8 weeks before your average last frost date. I like to start my seeds a little bit on the earlier side because I do like to pinch back my seedlings, and when it comes to alyssum, I know that they're cold hardy. The plant actually reseeds itself and comes back for me year after year. I do like to pinch back my seedlings a few times, and that encourages branching. That's not always true with every single annual you start, but I found that it does help when it comes to my alyssum seedlings. Alyssum plants can handle a light frost, but they'll die during a hard freeze, so just keep that in mind. So it really is to my benefit to get these seeds sown a little bit on the earlier side so that I can get them planted when it's still cool outside. When it comes to starting your seeds, you're not basing it on your hardiness zone. Hardiness zone tells you which plants will survive during the coldest parts of your winter. Those are typically your perennials. But when it comes to seed starting, it's based on your average last frost date. If you don't know what that date is, go to the link down below, enter in your zip code. It'll give you a general idea of your average last frost date. There's also a map on there. Find your location and it will also give you a general idea of that date. Or you can just do a quick internet search and basically type in when is my average last frost date and put in your zip code or your location. I mentioned that alyssum self-seeds itself readily in my yard. For that reason, this is my first year also winter sowing alyssum from seed, and it'll be a good comparison to see which seedlings do better, the ones I start inside or the ones that I winter sow. And I'll be sure to give you an update on that later in the season. I've been growing alyssum from seed for a number of years now. In fact, I generally start my alyssum from seed that I've collected myself. And I've made videos showing you the process. It's pretty easy to collect their seeds. The seeds are fairly small, and when you sow the seeds, they germinate within 1 to 2 weeks. Since the seeds are sown on the soil surface, you want to make sure you keep the seeds moistened and that they don't dry out as you wait for them to germinate. I usually have to pot up and pinch back my seedlings a few times before planting them out in the landscape. Prior to my average last frost date, I start hardening off all my plants, including my impatiens seedlings. I really enjoy this plant up along my front walkway. It complements nicely along with my trailing lobelia, my snapdragons, as well as dahlias, all plants that I like to grow from seed. I also enjoy planting my alyssum in my old arborvitae bed, and in that bed I usually have trailing lobelia along with pink vinca and coleus, and all those plants along with the alyssum just complement each other nicely. For this growing season, I splurged and I bought a couple of packets of alyssum seeds. I'm going to go ahead and show you which ones I bought. When I say I splurged when I bought these seeds, I really didn't spend that much money. These ones right here are burpee, and you can see that they're royal carpet. And even though it says it's $2.79, I got the seeds from Ocean State Job Lot, and they take 40% off the price. So I paid a lot less than $2.79. The packet is open because I already winter sowed these seeds, but I still kept some seeds for starting indoors. Right here it says barely cover, and that's because alyssum seeds need light to germinate. You should expect your alyssum seeds to germinate in about 1 to 2 weeks. And we still have a good amount of seeds left in this seed packet, even though a bunch were already winter sown. These seeds are by Botanical Interest, and they're called Rosie O'Day. They were $2.69 for the packet of seeds. Botanical Interest seeds always have a lot of good information on the front, the back, and even on the inside of the seed packet. Their website also has a lot of great information. And here it says that these seeds will emerge between 5 and 15 days. Press into the surface, which means we're not going to be covering the seeds. It says here that the alyssum are perennial in zones 5 and warmer. I'm not sure about them being a perennial where I live. It's more that they self-sow themselves, but I just wanted to point that out. And even though it says right here to start your seeds indoors 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, we are starting them earlier, and I mentioned why I'm doing that. And again, light aids in germination. And I still have quite a few seeds in there, even though I winter sowed a bunch of them. And I want you to notice that there's a lot of great information on the inside of your seed packet. I'm usually really good about collecting my own alyssum seeds. Clearly, I didn't collect that many of the white ones last year. I do know a lot will self-sow, and I can always move those around. But you can see that I did collect a few white ones, and if I wanted to, I could always go out and buy another packet of the white alyssum seeds from Ocean State Job Lot. Here I have some seed starting mix. I like to make my own seed starting mix, and I'll put a link to a video down in the description. It's basically 2 parts of peat moss, but you can use cocoa coir, to 1 part of very fine vermiculite. And then I add a small pinch of dolomite lime, which helps offset the pH of the peat moss. I also poured boiling hot water on my seed starting mix. You want to use pre-moistened seed starting mix, but also the boiling hot water helps kill any possible fungus gnat eggs that might be in here. When I squeeze my seed starting mix, notice there's no water dripping out. But when I let go, it's holding its form, and that's the right consistency that you want for your seed starting or potting mix. Since alyssum seeds are so small, I prefer to use seed starting mix because it's a lot lighter, a lot fluffier, and I feel that the seeds can easily germinate and their roots can grow in something that's nice and fine like this. I like to use restaurant takeout containers because honestly they're free to me and they make wonderful little greenhouses. In fact, this one has little vent holes in it, which is wonderful because in case it gets too hot in there. And I did make holes in the bottom of the container because you want to bottom water your seedlings. You don't ever want to water them from above because that can introduce all sorts of problems. So I'm going to go ahead and add my seed starting mix to my container. And now I'm going to press on the seed starting mix. I want to take out any air pockets that might be in there. I don't want to press too hard because I don't want to compact the seed starting mix too much. I made some labels, and notice I have not only the name of the seed that's on there, but I also have the date that I'm starting the seeds. I've gone ahead and I've placed my labels, and you'll notice I even put dividers here, so when I sow my seeds, it just separates them. I wouldn't recommend planting seeds of a lot of different types of plants in a small container like this. It's okay for me to do this because these are all alyssum. I wouldn't want to plant some alyssum on this side and then something like marigolds or sunflowers or even zinnias on that side because some plants grow a lot faster than, let's say, these plants. So we're going to start with the Alyssum Royal Carpet. Look how pretty that is. I love the color. I am all for sowing all the seeds in a packet, but come on, that is way too many. I think we're going to sow half of these, and part of the reason is, for whatever reason, if the seeds struggle and don't germinate, then I still have time to sow them again. I definitely recommend that if you can try doing that, is just sowing half of your seeds or 1/3 of your seeds and keeping some behind, just in case. I think that's good. I like to multi-sow my seeds in modular trays like this restaurant takeout container because initially it takes up a lot less space under my grow lights. And I think we all know, especially if we've been starting seeds for a while, that space is important under our lights. And I don't want to run out of space too early on in the game. And I've had it before where my seeds just didn't germinate. Sometimes that just happens. So why waste all that space under the lights if you don't have to? And also the reality is not every single seed is going to germinate. So this way, only the seeds that want to germinate are going to germinate. And then I can prick those seeds out and I can pot them up after that. Next, we're going to sow Rosie O'Day. And I didn't mention it earlier, but alyssum is also known as lobularia. I'm going to keep some seeds behind and we're going to sow this many right here. If you prefer to sow your seeds in something directly like a 6-cell pack, that is fine also. There is no right or wrong when it comes to this process. It's just a matter of personal preference. I've been sowing my seeds like this for years, and this is how I like to do it. And years ago, like 20 years ago, I preferred back then to actually start my seeds in a paper towel. and let the seeds germinate. And you might still see me do that in a future video, but I typically like to do that with bigger seeds, not little seeds like this. And the final seeds we're going to sow, which there aren't many, is the white alyssum. And when there aren't that many seeds in a seed packet like that, and the seeds are big enough that I feel comfortable doing this, a lot of times what I'll do is just rip the bag very carefully. And that allows me a little bit easier access to those little seeds that are in the pocket there. And then I can just take my finger and they will stick on there. The next thing I'm going to do is just press the seeds into the seed starting mix. And that is very important. You want those seeds to have good contact with your potting mix or your seed starting mix. Once they start germinating, their roots go looking for the soil. So by doing this, it just allows it a little bit, makes it a little bit easier for those roots to find the soil. We'll do the next set of alyssum seeds over here. One thing that I'm interested in knowing, and if I can find the information, I'll pop it up on the screen, is I know with the white alyssum, the sweet alyssum, that it's very, very beneficial to have that in your garden because it brings in all sorts of good insects. But I'm going to do a little more research to find out, is the same true with these other two seeds here that I'm currently pressing down? I mean, I know they're pretty and that's all fine and dandy, but the question is, are these two types of alyssum just as beneficial, I guess, in our gardens as this one over here, as the sweet alyssum? So I will research that and I will pop that up on the screen in case that's important to you. And I'm just going to use this small hand pump sprayer. I like to add a little additional water on top of the seeds just so that they really press into the seed starting mix and have a better chance of germination. I'm just giving it a light mist, and again, it's just to get those seeds wet. But I also don't want to give it a heavy mist because I don't want to move the seeds around. And I'm going to add this cover. This is going to act as a humidity dome. It's clear, which is great because the seeds need light to germinate, so light can come through the clear part of this cover. And also the humidity dome just keeps it a nice humid environment in there, which is a perfect environment for those seeds to want to germinate. And it will also keep the seeds as well as the seed starting mix moist. In the past, when I didn't have something like this, I used clear plastic wrap. You can really use anything that you want as long as it's clear and it allows light to come in. Now I'm placing the restaurant takeout container on a seedling heat mat which stays on 24 hours a day in order to get the 70 to 75 degree Fahrenheit range. And notice I have my grow lights here. These are turned on 16 hours a day from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Remember, be patient. It might take 2 to 3 weeks to see some sort of germination. Once I see good germination, I will remove this container off of the heat mat, but I'll make sure that they're still under the grow lights because they will need that nice strong light. Thinning out and potting up will be done as soon as I have my first set of true leaves. One of the biggest mistakes gardeners make is letting their seeds dry out before the seeds have even germinated. When it comes to alyssum, especially because we're planting the seeds on the soil surface, you don't want those seeds to dry out. So if you notice that the soil is looking dry, go ahead and spritz the top of the soil with some water. However, once those seeds have germinated, you don't want to be watering from above. At that point, you want to bottom water. I'll be sure to make updated videos once my alyssum seeds have germinated, and then what my next steps are for potting them up, for fertilizing them, for pinching them back, and then eventually getting them out in my yard. Are you growing alyssum from seed this year? And if so, which varieties? Also, let me know how your seedlings are doing. Are they thriving or are you running into any issues? I'd love to know. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.